Helldivers, it is finally the 17th, it is patch day, and we are going to go over all the patch notes. This is huge, there's going to be a ton of changes, there's going to be a lot of me talking, and we're going to discuss how these changes are going to impact the game. Important, quick to note, I am making this as soon as the patch has come out. I haven't even gotten to play it yet, so I want to discuss all the changes, but all of this is going to be in theory. We are going to actually play the game, of course, later today, and we'll make more videos in the future to discuss these changes as we actually field test them. So, huge update from the devs. Helldivers, thank you for your valuable feedback. Many players have expressed feeling constrained in how they approach challenges, often relying on unlimited sev tools while other options seem less effective. This has impacted your ability to play the game in a way that suits your preferences. So what's changing? For all the bug divers out there, many situations were previously either resolved with your primary weapon or anti-tank weapons, which haven't always performed as expected. With the overwhelming presence of Bile Titans and Chargers, many weapon choices therefore became invalid. To address this, we've reworked armor penetration, anti-tank weapons, enemy armor, and health values. Our goal is to improve the effectiveness of weapons such as the autocannon, heavy machine gun, flamethrower, anti-material rifle against heavily armored enemies. Although they may not be as effective as specialized anti-tank weapons, they are now more viable choices, making your loadouts more versatile, fostering better team collaboration and planning. On the bot front, Hulks have had their armor reduced, making them more vulnerable to a wider range of weapons. Additionally, to improve gameplay experience, the Devastators and Gunship will now have a limited supply of rockets, and those rockets won't hit as frequently as before. This comes alongside the previously updated smaller impact radius for rockets, reducing excessive ragdolling. We've also made improvements to many primary weapons, bringing them closer in effectiveness to popular choices. This should offer more variety and flavor during your play sessions. We are adjusting damage mechanics to make the damage Helldivers receive more consistent over time by reducing 100% extra headshot damage to 50%. To maintain the overall challenge of the game, we've slightly increased the damage taken to other body parts. Our intent is to preserve the intensity of the gameplay while minimizing frustrating situations where sudden headshots cause large spikes of damage. With these changes, along with an upgraded Helldiver arsenal, enemy adjustments, and more consistent damage, the overall difficulty may slightly decrease. We'll be monitoring this closely and we'll listen to the community on how you think it feels. We want to assure you that your feedback remains essential to us. Please share your thoughts on these updates as we are actively listening. We plan to conduct another balance pass by day 60 of our commitment to ensure we're aligning with what you need for the best possible experience and to address any concerns or adjustments required. Your insight will be invaluable in refining these changes and making sure the game remains engaging and enjoyable for everyone. Holy cow, that's a lot, and that's just the foreword. I can't wait to dig into this, but let's talk about what a few of these things mean. 1, the headshot damage. This is actually a frustration that I shared in a previous video, especially about the little jumpy guys, how it's really frustrating how sometimes they can jump 5 feet, sometimes they can jump 100 feet, and sometimes they get a lucky headshot and insta-gib you, other times they do no damage and they're not a threat. This will make it more consistent, and I love that. I'm very happy to see less ragdolling. I know that's hugely frustrating, but it's strange that the Impaler is not listed on there for the ragdolling since, it is the #1 offender of ragdolling and frustration. The armor rework, of course, is the big highlight here and something that I've wanted. The ability to deal with other enemies with your other tools, even if they're not as effective, means that you have a lot more options, and I love that. This truly feels like the meta is going to be shattered with this. Now, let's crunch some real numbers. Previously, partial damage dealt 50% of full damage, which we found to be overly punishing and reduced effectiveness too much, leading to excessive reliance on high armor penetration weapons. We've now increased partial damage to 65% of full damage to address the issue, and the Helldiver now takes less damage from headshots, which previously dealt 100% extra damage, but now inflicts only 50% extra damage, but you'll take damage to other body parts a little bit more, decreasing the big spike damage. Now, I'm gonna admit I'm a little worried about that since I'm a huge fan of wearing heavy stim armor and just walking through everything and not being bothered by it at all. Looks like we're gonna have to be a little bit more cautious. That is not a bad thing, but it does greatly impact potentially my playstyle, so I'm gonna have to relearn the game just a little bit. Alright, a bunch of numbers come at you from a bunch of guns. Liberator and Liberator Carbine. Damage increased from 60 to 70, durable damage increased from 14 to 17, stagger force increased from 10 to 15, max spare magazines increased from 7 to 8, starting spare magazines increased from 5 to 6. Overall, I don't have a problem with the Liberator. In fact, I just did in my last video, you probably saw it looked really weird because I was doing a challenge where we only did the starter gear, including the Liberator, to see if we could solo a level 10 mission with only the starter stratagems and starter gear. And it's fully possible, so I think the weapon is in a good position. So I think just a little bit more damage, a little bit more durable damage, will put it in a good place. Knight. Damage is increased from 50 to 65. Durable damage increased from 5 to 7. Magazines now fully refill when picking up resupply and reduced recoil. This gun has always been in a weird position with the reload, being that it didn't give you full ammo, and they did say that was intentional. Apparently they have said, okay, that was intentional, but maybe a little dumb. So here it is. It works like every other weapon. I think their big fear was this gun becoming pay to win, and so they made it have a huge disadvantage so no one felt like they had to pay money to unlock this gun. Liberator Concussive now comes with a drum magazine which holds 60 rounds. The number of magazines reduced from 10 to 6. The number of magazines have been reduced due to larger magazine capacity. This is amazing. It makes it completely different from the other Liberators, which is something that we have asked for. We've asked them, say, hey, can you make these guns feel a little bit different instead of having 10 generic Liberators? And here we are. That's going to be huge, and I love the concussive, and I love this even more. Tenderizer, number of rounds in this magazine increased from 30 to 35. Starting magazine increased from 4 to 5. You're going to hear this a lot where I think they were afraid to give everything a boost in numbers, so instead they're increasing magazine, how much it can hold and how many you get, which gives it a little bit more power without actually giving it more power. So I think we're going to see a lot of that. Breaker now comes with an extended magazine which holds 16 shells. Stagger force increased from 10 to 15. Spray and Pray now has a duckbill muzzle, making it spread very horizontal but less vertical. Total damage increased from 192 to 240. The Spray and Pray has been a crowd favorite that has always been underperforming, so seeing the idea of putting a duckbill on there so it will spray larger amounts but hit everything in a horizontal pattern rather than vertical was a genius idea to bring it a little bit more power and of course a little bit more damage. I think we're going to see this become a fan favorite. Scythe cooldown is faster, adjustments to the heat VFX, scope change to a lower powered scope, removed recoil, and sets enemies on fire faster. This gun existed and basically everyone said, why would I bother if the sickle exists? But with the faster fire, faster cooldown, I think this gun is going to be in line with the sickle. Crossbow, explosion radius increased by 50% and explosion damage increased from 150 to 350. Holy cow, this thing is going to be one-shotting left to right. I absolutely love the crossbow, and this is going to make it a must-pick in a lot of situations. I think on planets with bile spewers, this thing is going to be the GOAT now. The Eruptor. Everyone's been waiting with bated breath on this one. Shrapnel projectiles are set to 30, shrapnel damage is set to 110, explosion damage decreased from 340 to 225, shrapnel is back. We heard your feedback and reintroduced the shrapnel. We have replaced the original shrapnel with the frag grenade shrapnel to no longer instantly one-shot helldivers, with the exception of the occasional unlucky headshot. We also increased the amount of shrapnel. Explosion radius increased by 33%. I understand why they took this away from us. When I was one-shotting Chargers and Bile Titans and making everything trivial, I understand why we lost it. But finally, we have it back. I'm not going to say it's as perfect as it was before, but I think this is as close as we can get. I am so hyped. Defender, damage increased from 70 to 75. Durable damage increased from 7 to 8. Liberator Penetrator, damage increased from 45 to 60. Diligence, damage increased from 125 to 165, and durable damage increased from 32 to 42. Counter Sniper, damage increased from 140 to 200, durable damage increased from 14 to 50, stagger force increased from 15 to 20. This one's interesting to me because everyone always said there was no reason to take the Diligence over the Counter Sniper, and with these changes, I believe that kind of remains true. I really don't see why you would take the Diligence in any situation over the Counter Sniper. Blitzer now has a weak stun effect that builds up per shot on its target, already a wonderful weapon when dealing with medium to heavy armor enemies, and now even better. Torture, damage increased by 50%. Flame mechanics reverted to before the Escalation of Freedom update and increased AP from 3 to 4. Now, I know a lot of people said that the flamer update was necessary so that you couldn't use a primary gun to walk up and cook a charger. It looks like you might be able to accomplish that now. I don't know how that's going to exactly work, but I feel like the torture was basically everyone picked up and was like, hey, this is kind of cool, but no point in taking this. And now there's a point in taking this. Sidearms, Peacemaker increased spare magazines from 5 to 6, Dagger gains heat more slowly, removed recoil, damage increased from 200 to 250, sets enemies on fire faster, and adjusted the heat VFX. Crisper, damage increased by 50%, flame mechanics reverted once again, and increased AP from 3 to 4. Honestly, I don't think I've seen anyone use any 3 of these sidearms, and I don't think that's going to change here. I think most people are happy bringing their grenade pistol. If they don't have a grenade pistol, they bring the big iron for the memes. If they're not bringing either of those, they're going to be bringing the new stim pistol coming out on Thursday. So I really don't think these changes matter all that much. But again, if someone wants to use the dagger, it at least looks usable now. I just don't see that happening. Alright, that was all the regular primary weapons. It looks like their goal was to make it able to use the other weapons so not everyone's using the Breaker Incinerary, and it looks like we've accomplished that goal. I really want to try the Concussive now. What primary are you going to be using? Put it in the comments down below. I want to hear if this has changed your mind on bringing like the Breaker Incinerary or your favorite regular gun. Are you going to try something new now? On to support weapons, another big one. Dedicated anti-tank weapons like the recoilless rifle, Quasar, Commando, expendable anti-tank, Spear, Patriot, Exo rockets have all significantly received damage boost to enhance their effectiveness. These weapons generally fall into 3 categories. Strong and reliable. The RR and the Spear can afford to be less accurate when firing at armored targets since most hits will eliminate enemies the size of a charger. Strong. The expendable anti-tank and Quasar are highly effective, often killing targets with a single hit to a weak spot, otherwise 2 solid shots will handle a charger or 1 for a Hulk. And less strong, the Commando and Patriot exosuit rockets typically require 1 to 3 shots to take down a charger or Hulk depending on your aim. Now this is going to be a little bit out of order, but I'm going to talk about the Railgun here too. Railgun durable damage increased from 60 to 225, and fully overcharging damage increased damage from 150% to 250%. Now, why am I talking about that here? Well, a lot of people's fear was with all these buffs, if the Railgun does that much damage and can 2-shot a Bile Titan, what's the point in bringing anti-tank if the Railgun is just that strong, has a fast reload, and is way more versatile, has more shots, and you can run around while using it? And I think this effectively answers that question. Yes, the Railgun does have that like effectiveness, but being able to reliably one-shot the big enemies, especially at a range, is going to be a huge advantage. I think at least one person on the team is going to need to bring, even if other people are bringing the Railgun. Especially like something like the Spear that you can lock on from a long distance. I think being able to remove the problem without having to worry about managing your heat and all those sort of things is going to be huge. I also think the community forgot that overcharging your weapon has a huge risk to it, and not everyone is perfect enough to be able to mitigate that risk, especially when they're constantly under fire and in danger. So I do think that this is still going to be good balance. Grenade launcher, starting spare magazines increased from 1 to 2, max spare magazine increased from 2 to 3, explosion radius slightly increased. They obviously felt this was in a good place, and I agreed the grenade launcher is a ton of fun and very effective if you can aim it. Laser cannon, cooldown is slightly faster, removed recoil, sets enemies on fire faster, can now damage enemies like chargers, Bile Titans, Impalers, Hulks, adjusted the heat VFX. I love the laser cannon, and now being able to actually be useful with it to everything on the bug front is simply amazing. I think that is a brilliant choice, and I am super hyped to see how it works, because now you have a fully versatile weapon that you can sweep across a large amount of enemies or concentrate fire on bigger ones, and that was always its intent in my mind, and it is going to be very good at that. I feel we're going to see a lot of laser cannons. Arc Thrower, range increased from 35 to 55, now has a moderate stun effect that builds up on the target, jumps additional times, durable damage increased from 50 to 100. Just like the laser cannon, this means that this weapon can still be used for hordes, and you can concentrate fire on bigger dudes and help out with it. I think that's amazing. I think we're going to see a return of the Arc Throwers, and I know there's at least 10 people that are happy about that. I know there's not a lot of you Arc fans out there, but the ones of you are dedicated, and I'm glad you are back. Stalwart. Damage increased from 60 to 70. Durable damage increased from 14 to 17. Stagger force increased from 10 to 15. Machine gun stagger force increased from 15 to 20. Good little buffs for the machine guns. They were already in great places, but this again brings them up just a little bit. I love the stalwart and love seeing it get a little bit more damage. Anti-material rifle, durable damage increased from 135 to 180, can now damage heavier enemies like chargers, bile titans, impalers, and hulks. Stagger force increased from 20 to 25. I'm not sure about this one, to be honest, not gonna lie. I love the AMR, it's just the best on the bot front. People don't bring it on the bug front because, well, it felt like an anti-tank weapon where you can't deal with the hordes of enemies and you get lots of hordes of enemies. This will allow you to, of course, damage the bigger enemies. I still don't think it's going to be a popular choice on the bug front, and that's okay. Not every gun needs to be brought on the bug front. It can still be great for the bot front. I just don't see this being a big change for things like the bug front. Heavy machine guns, stagger force increased from 20 to 25, can now damage heavier enemies like chargers, bile titans, impalers, and hulks. I'm excited to see what exactly that means. I'm a huge fan of the heavy machine gun mixed with the ammo backpack and just being a non-stop little minigun. I think this is an awesome change, and I can't wait to see how much it takes to bring down one of the big guys. Commando, demolition strength against structures has been reduced. It can no longer destroy automaton fabricators in a single shot. However, since the fabricators now have health, it can still take them out with 2 shots. We'll discuss that a bit later. It is a big change and a good compromise. Flamethrower, damage increased by 33%. Flamer mechanics reverted. Increased armor penetration from 3 to 4. Can now damage heavier enemies like chargers, bile titans, impalers, hulks. Same with the autocannon, can now damage heavier enemies like chargers, bile titans, impalers, and hulks. I'm not going to lie, the first thing I'm going to be doing is dropping with an all flame load. Hate me if you want. I know people hate the flames, but we are so back with all this. I think the flamethrower is a high risk, high reward kind of weapon. I absolutely love it. Please don't burn your allies with it, but I think this is going to be one of the best on the bugs once again. Frag grenade, increased shrapnel damage by roughly 50%, max amount increased from 4 to 5, refill increased from 2 to 3, explosion radius increased. I think many people felt with the high explosion grenade, there was no reason to bring the frag grenade ever. This gives it a little chance to shine. I still don't think people are ever going to bring this one. People are going to bring either the stun grenades, the incendiary grenades, or the new one. Thermite grenade, explosion damage increased from 100 to 2000, shorter time until it ignites the thermite, time until it explodes slightly reduced, max number decreased from 4 to 3. The thermite grenade was absolutely useless. No one brought it, no one used it. This is going to make it useful. I think it's going to be an absolute tank slayer, which is what it was supposed to do. I may even get rid of my stun grenades for this. This looks like what I always wanted it to be, and I'm excited to give it a try. That's it for the stratagems. Now we have a new Galactic War feature. Galactic War Map can now display the location of strategically important assets. This will make it much easier for the Helldiver to take them into consideration when deciding their next move. That's really cool. We love the War Map. Love that it's even better. And emote wheel feature. We can now equip up to 4 emotes and access them using the new emote wheel by holding the emote button. And additional separate key bindings options are available, and added Dolby Atmos support on PS5. I love having more emotes. I think that's great. I'm going to just move on though because we have so much more to cover and we are running low on time. This video is already dragging on. Automaton fabricators. Fabricators now have health and armor in addition to existing destruction system. This means that while many high armor penetration weapons can still destroy them, it may take multiple hits to do so, depending on the weapon used, and added clearer showcase for their health. I love this. I know people love the Commando to be able to take down those fabricators from a long distance. This means many more weapons are going to be able to do that, and I absolutely love this. Please give us more stuff like this. Hulk's all version. Armor reduced from 5 to 4. Back spot slightly more durable. Back weak spot health decreased from 1000 to 800. Honestly, I felt that Hulks were perfectly balanced. I don't know that they needed this nerf, but I'm glad to see it because apparently some people are struggling with them. So I think that this means that we can get a few more Hulks. I think this will be an okay change. Hulk Bruiser replaced the rocket launcher for an energy-based cannon, increased how frequently the Hulk Bruiser shoots. I think this is an okay change. I think they're trying to reduce the amount of rockets and ragdolling like they said, so giving it an energy-based cannon reduces the overall amount of rockets we're going to see. I like that. Tank front armor increased from 5 to 6. Berserker, head health reduced 150 to 125, main health reduced 1000 to 750, abdomen is now a weak spot, chainsaw damage increased. So these guys are going to be easier to take down, but even more of a problem if you let them get too close. I like that. I like that feeling of them being like a berserker coming in. They can be taken down a little bit easier, but if you let them get too close, danger. Devastators, all versions, main health reduced from 800 to 750. Devastators now flinch when hit, causing their aim to worsen. The intent is to make them easier to manage if you keep applying damage. This is a great change because a lot of these guys feel like they have absolute auto aim, bot aim, and they'll snipe you from across the map, so I like decreasing their accuracy. That is good. Rocket Devastators and gunships now have a limited amount of rockets, and the rocket physical collision is smaller, so they're easier to avoid and won't ragdoll you as much. Now, Rocket Devastators do get one reload. Gunships, it does not say that for, so I don't think they get one. On to the Chargers, all versions. Armor reduced from 5 to 4. The butt weak spot health decreased from 1100 to 950. The butt weak spot is slightly less durable. Belly armor reduced from 4 to 2. A damage multiplier has been added to the Charger's exposed flesh of the main body, now dealing 300% more damage. Now turns slightly slower when charging and moving normally. Now charge less often. Charge damage increased by 50%. Side attack damage increased by 50%. And Charger Behemoth, the butt weak spot health is decreased from 1200 to 950. So the Chargers are going to be a little bit more deadly, which I don't mind, but they're not going to be, hopefully, Tokyo drifting into you anymore, and a lot more weapons will deal with them, especially with that only 2 armor on the underbelly, means even our primaries are going to be able to deal some damage. I love it. I love to see it. Again, this is going to be totally meta shifting. Hunter, health reduced 175 to 160. Scavenger, health is reduced from 80 to 60. Bile Titan, armor reduced from 5 to 4. We have reworked the Bile Titan's belly gameplay. Belly armor reduced from 4 to 2. Introduced a separate belly health pool once the outer belly layer has been destroyed. Destroying the exposed belly health pool kills the Bile Titan. This is how it should have been from the beginning. They've got this soft exposed underside and you could shoot it, and then it felt like you weren't really doing that much. Being able to actually take them out from it is a great change. I love to see that. I don't think they're going to be too trivial. I do think this is a wonderful change and probably my favorite change overall so far. Impaler has had some great changes. Armor reduced from 5 to 4. Its tentacles pursue you over a shorter distance from the Impaler and prioritize players nearer to the Impaler. And if the Impaler can't see its enemy, it will retract its tentacles after a brief period. This sentence is worded a little wonky. Previously, the Impaler could only retract its tentacles once during its entire lifetime when threatened. Now it can do it several times. So I think what this means is we're going to see it not shooting its tentacles across the map. It will be able to be a little bit more defensive since it can retract a little bit more often, but we're not going to see this unfair gameplay with them. I hope this is enough to make them fun, because right now no one thinks the Impaler is a fun or unique enemy. No one likes seeing them. It does alter the course of gameplay, which is what a giant enemy should do, but it's just not fun. I think this should make it at least a little bit more fun, but that remains to be seen, because the problem is still being hit by the Impaler, flung off the map, and losing all your samples. That is terrible. And their tentacles, the damage is now increased, reduced camera shake of their attack, and they require less damage on them to retract. I think that does give you some good counterplay. Again, I'm excited to see if this will make them fun. I don't think it will, but I'm willing to give it a try. On to non-support weapon stratagems. Every stratagem capable of damaging heavily armored enemies has had their damage increased to account for the increased health of heavier enemies. The goal with this change is to have the stratagems on a similar or higher power level than before. In addition to that, we have made the following changes as well. 500 kg bomb, explosion radius increased to match visuals better. I know this was a fan favorite. I know that people swore by this, but eventually it got out how bad it really was, and we saw people stop bringing it. Now we have a reason to bring it again, which I am super happy for. I love seeing the huge explosions. It makes the monkey brain happy. Please, please, please let it be good so we can see big explosions once again. Eagle rockets, damage slightly increased. Gatling sentry stagger force increased from 150 to 200. Machine gun sentry stagger force increased from 15 to 20. Tesla tower, increased stagger force to match other arc weapons. Now has a moderate stun effect that builds up per hit on its target. Heavy machine gun emplacement, stagger force increased from 20 to 25, can now damage heavier enemies. Patriot exosuit, Gatling stagger force increased from 15 to 20. Emancipator, autocannon durable damage increased from 60 to 150. Rate of fire of its weapons increased from 125 to 175. Ammo increased from 75 to 100 per arm. Orbital laser, damage slightly increased. Orbital rail cannon, damage slightly increased. Orbital gas strike, we are reworking the gas gameplay mechanics to become crowd control focused in preparation for Chemical Agent's Warbond. The gas effects have been reworked to cause blindness and confuse enemies and helldivers alike at the expense of reduced damage over time. Not gonna lie, I absolutely hate this. I love the gas strike. I have been a huge fan of the gas strike ever since they fixed the bug that makes it awesome. It's wonderful to throw on a bug hole and just take out 50, 100 enemies at once. We've been asking for things like the flamethrower to be crowd control, and it seems that they have been listening to us and they are adding that crowd control we wanted, but we wanted on the flamethrower, not on the gas. So I'm happy to have the mechanic. I'm really happy to be able to add in some blindness, some confusion, something to give us just another tool in our arsenal. I'm not happy we're losing gas for that. But again, we haven't tried these, so I'm willing to field test it before I complain too much, but I wanted this to be on the flamethrower, not on the gas. Planet changes. The intense heat and extreme cold modifier are no longer static throughout the entire mission and may now change based on the time of day or on different weather conditions. Some desert planets will now only have the intense heat modifier activated during the day. This means during the night, the planet will either have no modifier or even an extreme cold modifier. And arid planets such as the Hellmire planet will now only have the intense heat modifier active during fire tornado storms. This is kind of a cool change. I think it just adds a little bit more dynamic to the game. I don't think a lot of people will notice this change, but if everyone's going to be bringing laser cannons now, like I said, those got a huge buff. We'll see some perks to that with this. I like it. I don't think it's that big of a gameplay change, but I like it. Now we have crashes and soft lock fixes. There are a ton of them. I will read through them all, but I'm not going to comment on them all. Fix to crash that could occur if shutting down the game during boot. Fix to crash caused by players with unique skins timing out. Fix to crash when vehicle skins are not properly synced. Fix to crash caused by players leaving the game shortly after being reinforced while using unique Hellpod skins. Fix to rare crash produced by biospewer attacks. Fix to crash when interacting with the Galactic War hologram. Fix to crash when joining another Super Destroyer. Fix to crash that could happen when you are participating in a secondary objective. Fix to crash when booting the game on PS5 with an unsupported system language such as French Canadian. Fix potential crashes when new players hot join. Potential crash when other players were leaving the game. Fix to rare crash when using the hologram map and looking at operations. Should no longer crash when interacting with the Galactic War map when an update is required. Fix to rare crash that could occur when joining a game session which is cycled through at least 32 unique players. Fix an issue where objective stratagems cannot be completed if host migration happens. Fix an issue where players already joined would be kicked when joining other players' games. Fixed a game where closing Steam overlay in the middle of the super credits purchase would stay in broken state for any purchase after that. Fixed inaccessible shuttles after hosts leaving the game right before its landing. Fixed soft lock during mission summary if the host left the game. Fixed an issue where emotes would not exit properly if you canceled them using Sprint. Fixed the PS5 friends list. I know people have been asking for that forever, and it's great to see the friends list finally fixed. Some miscellaneous fixes. Evacuate high-value assets objective. Fixed issues where enemies would spawn on top of extraction point. Enemies can no longer shoot generators from spawn points or from far away. Fixed enemy pathing where they would sometimes try to enter the base from the mountain on the side. Added more to protection for the generators to prevent enemies from shooting them from far away. That's especially for the factory striders, I feel like. Heavy and flying enemies now prioritize attacking the player before the generators and the gates, and fixed an issue where enemies would stop spawning for a period of time when the host leaves the mission. I know a few people absolutely refuse to do this mission because sometimes a factory strider would spawn, just walk over, and make you instantly lose after working hard for like 30 minutes, so I'm glad to see some changes here. Fixed some bugs on the geological survey objective where sometimes things would become inoperable. Tweaked enemy spawns. I know that would be easily overrun by enemies. I'm wondering if that means less enemies or more enemies. Impaler. Fixed a bug where impalers didn't receive explosion damage in their exposed weak areas. Fixed their tentacles not being pingable. The 3 following instances have been largely resolved and the issues are now mostly fixed, although rare occurrences may still happen when the impaler in exceptional cases, they should be significantly less common. Fixed a bug where standing near the Impaler's head during the tentacle attraction would cause the Helldiver to be launched high in the air. Fixed a bug where tentacles spawning beneath the player could occasionally launch Helldivers into the air. And fixed a bug where the Impaler's tentacles would sometimes launch the exosuit into the air when the player was still inside. Now, I briefly mentioned this earlier, so hopefully this means you're no longer going to lose your samples by being launched 50,000 feet in the air or way off the map. Again, I still don't like the Impaler, but I think this will prevent some of that frustration. Now we have a whole list of other fixes. We've been asking for bug fixes. I'm not going to say fix every time. My voice is going to die after this video, so please forgive me, but we're going to try and hit all of these because some of these are huge. Fixed enemies not receiving damage properly when more than 10 meters away from the player. Fixed where Bile Titans may not sometimes take head damage. That is huge. I know that was frustrating. I'm very happy to see it. Issue causing most weapons to shoot below the crosshair when aiming down sight has been fixed. Amazing. Hive Breaker Drill might become inaccessible after being called in. Fixed. Issue where first-person view was misaligned with weapon sights when using the ballistic shield. HMG scope is no longer misaligned. Lens cutting issues in scopes. Bugs where multiple confidential data pickups could spawn in the same stranglehold when only one is intended. Two-person emotes getting stuck. Cinematic missing audio in German. Instances of automatons shooting through walls. Bug where sometimes prerequisite objectives would be shown above the primary objective in the HUD. Broken menus when opening the main menu right after entering the Hell Pod. Weapon preview and loadout not being visible. After inspecting armors, helmets, capes. Eagle payloads sometimes not blowing up in swap biomes. Stronghold outposts giving only visually 0 rewards on the mission screen. Timed out players still being visible on the UI. Longer player titles names now fixed when scrolling. Reinforced scout striders showing the wrong name. Removed the depreciated orbital flare stratagem from Stratagem Hero. Disabled invite join functionality when players are playing a different version of the game. Fixed the drill. Fixed some reinforcement stratagems used on mission end number. Fixed players' names. Desync issues and how many civilians have been extracted. Unexploded hell bombs on terrains not being pingable. Not seeing teammates' equipment when hot joining a mission. Failed to extract text incorrectly showing. Solve the issue where the player will not unlock the new difficulties after fulfilling the requirements for it. Binding stratagem inputs to other buttons should not block terminal inputs. Other player Helldivers showing over the weapons armors when joining when the player is selecting. Fixed a bug when starting the mission, even if exiting loadout, going back to the brief screen will now unready the player. And look, there's like a million more of these. I'm going to put them on the screen for you to read, but there's so many here. Some of them are so small, but I hit the important ones. The Bile Titans' heads actually working as they should is going to be huge, and the misaligned scopes that have been haunting us forever are fixed, and a ton of bug fixes. Suffice to say, people have been saying, well, why are you doing things like this when you should be working on bug fixes? Why are you doing war bonds when you should be fixing bugs? Well, now we have both. We have a huge fix to a ton of bugs, as well as we have a big fix to some of the most game-breaking issues. Again, the Bile Titans not taking damage and the scopes being misaligned. Also, just as importantly, because I just remembered it, no longer shooting through walls, so that's going to be huge on the bot front. I know that was a huge frustration for a lot of people. Being able to actually hide and utilize cover is going to feel absolutely amazing. Hopefully that is a permanent fix. Now, there still are some known issues, and there are some top priority ones. I think these ones are important to bring up. They know that players may not receive friend requests from other platforms. Large units have no audio cues, allowing them to sneak up on players. I know people talk about this a lot, but the ninja chargers jumping in on you, apparently they're acknowledging that is really an issue. Enemies will try and shoot generators through walls in their high rescue asset mission. Enemies sometimes capable of shooting through walls. Social menu is stuck on please wait democratically for some players. Dead bodies of chargers can launch the Helldivers into the air. Stratagem balls bounce unpredictably off cliffs in some spots. Players may sometimes be unable to join specific friends or return to ship when joined. The stratagem ball bounce is so annoying, especially on the extract high value targets, because you're trying to put like the heavy machine gun where it's supposed to be and it'll just bounce off. That's so annoying. I'm glad they acknowledge that. I hope they can fix that. It is concerning to see them talking about in the known top priority issues that enemies are capable of shooting through walls, when the previous bug fix said they addressed that. So there must be some enemies that can still shoot through walls, so do be warned that is known and still happening. This was way longer than I intended, but there was so much to go through that we had to talk about it all. Overall, originally, I was worried when I heard about all this that the game was going to be too easy. It looks like they're acknowledging that the game is going to be a little bit easier, but it doesn't look like it's going to be too much of a problem they don't feel. So I trust in them. I can't wait to jump in and try some of these changes. Tell me what your absolute favorite change is. If you can only choose one, what's your favorite change? Put it in the comments down below. And as always, have a blessed day.